Hello, my name is Chris Soucy. I am the writer of today's play, which is SLASHER'S DELIGHT, and you're listening to Gathered by the Ghostlight.
All right, welcome back to Gathered by the Ghostlight. I'm Jonathan Cook, your host, producer, and sometimes voice actor on this thing.
And I'm Devon McSherry, and I don't even know what to say.
You're doing it again. You're supposed to have. All right, never mind.
Today
Today, you're going to hear an audio play that's a little bit comedy, a little bit horror, but a lot of a good time.
Yes, today's episode is called SLASHER'S DELIGHT by Chris Soucy, and he is a Savannah-based playwright, and we have him here with us today.
Yeah, luckily, he happened to be driving through Augusta today, and coincidentally, and he decided to drop in with us and be here in person. So, ladies and gentlemen, Christopher Soucy, how are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. How's everybody?
Great. Welcome.
Good,
Thanks for coming.
I'm very excited to hear the play. It is definitely one of those, I don't imagine them. There are a lot of plays I write I don't imagine being produced.
Yeah,
it's just like kind of writing exercises. Just to keep you going as a playwright. You kind of like want to do these things. So I was really tickled that this was chosen to be.
We had fun. We had fun recording it.
So much fun. So since you're here in person, you'll talk with us a little bit about the play that everyone's about to hear. You'll talk to us about theater life, playwriting, the Valdez Theater Conference. That's something you recently did. Haunted ghost tours. You're also a podcaster.
Yes.
So all that other cool Savannah stuff you do, we'll chat later about all that. But first, since you're here in person, one thing I like to do with our guest writers that are here with us, can you introduce your episode for us, your story called SLASHER'S DELIGHT?
SLASHER'S DELIGHT is really about the birth of a final girl. So please enjoy this musing on how final girls truly become final girls in horror movies.
There you go. Now, gather around the ghost light, sit back and enjoy. This is SLASHER'S DELIGHT, written by Christopher Soucy.
What's going on? Where am I? Becky, wake up. What? Are you okay? What happened? Where are we? I don't know. What's going on?
Your friends are quite dead.
Ah! You killed them?
Quite.
Are you going to kill us?
Well, that's the job.
Job?
Yes, a dreadful business, really, but somebody must do it.
Kill people?
Well, that is merely a part of the job.
What's the rest of it?
Why are you talking to him?
Don't you want to know what's going on?
I want to get out of here.
Yes, your friend is correct. Escape should be your primary goal at this juncture.
Why didn't you kill us?
Oh, yes. Tea time.
Tea time.
Mandatory break.
Are you, like, in a union?
Yes, Local 443, Supernatural, Maniacal, and or Folklore-related Killers Union. We must take mandatory breaks after free killings.
3?
Yes, let's see. There was the gentleman that you were canoodling with.
Becky, you were sleeping with Tim?
What? You two broke up.
Yesterday! We broke up yesterday!
Yesterday? They were in the sack together the first day you arrived.
Hey, you stay out of this.
You screwed my boyfriend?
I did you a favor. He was gross.
I believe I'm the one who did you the favor, yeah? I decapitated him with a pair of garden shears.
Oh my God.
Okay, so there's Tim and Bradley?
Oh, was he the one that was always cracking jokes?
No, that's Pete.
Ah, yes, Pete, of course. He's been vivisected.
What does that mean?
I removed his organs.
Oh, gross.
Indeed.
So who's the third?
Oh, well, you know that odd fellow that warned you not to come camping here?
From the gas station?
Oh, yes. Oh, that bloke. Well, he has been a nuisance for quite some time now.
So Bradley's still alive?
At least until my break is over.
How long is your break?
I have about 15 minutes left to enjoy these tea cakes.
And you can't do anything in those 15 minutes.
Well, that would be a violation of my contract.
What contract? Who's hiring you? And what exactly is this job?
Well, my employers prefer not to be named, but the contract, it's a pretty standard supernatural slasher contract. You see, I murder a group of unsuspecting teens and any ancillary people I might come across, thereby cementing a sort of local law for a given area. And I'm given full creative freedom in the manner in which I kill people, which is nice, right? My colleague Wilbur, well, he was forced to use a chainsaw exclusively. Oh, dreadfully boring, that job.
So what's keeping me from killing you while we're on break?
Oh, excellent question. You see, I'm hired on as a supernatural slasher, so I can't be killed by conventional means.
Seriously?
Oh, quite. You can give it a go, if you like. Yeah, come on over here. You can even use my knife.
Okay.
Here, take it. Yeah, go on. Give it a go. Give it a go. Come on. Oh, good one.
Okay, stop.
Just kinda,
Okay,
it
Marcia,
tickles just a
stop.
little bit.
Whoa. Incredible.
I know, right? Yeah. Look, I don't want to tell you how to run your business, but you really should take this opportunity to run for your lives.
Becky, wait!
There it is.
Damn, that's cold.
Now, why aren't you running?
Well, I was thinking, if someone's hiring you to kill, do they hire survivors?
Oh, are you looking to join the Final Girl Union?
I guess. What does that entail?
Oh, well, let me speak to my rep. Just give me 1 second. All right, let's see. Here we go. Murray. Yeah. Oh, I'm up at Blood Lake. Right. Yeah. Oh, delightful assignment. Yes, utterly delightful. So, I have a young woman here interested in joining the Final Girls Union. Uh-huh. Yeah. Uh-huh. Right, yeah. Oh, is that all? Oh, great. Could you give me that number? Oh, yeah, Murray. I do have one, as a matter of fact. Okay. Oh, I owe you one, Murray. Cheers.
What did he say?
All right, so all you have to do is sign a waiver to survive this encounter, and then you call the union at this number to set up your membership.
That's it?
Well, unfortunately, you have to acknowledge that you will be the one and only survivor of this incident.
Okay, I could do that.
Great. All right, so initial here, and, right here, and sign and date right here.
What's this part?
Oh, right, yes. Well, that signifies that although you may defeat and or kill me, I am entitled to a minimum of 2 more opportunities to get you. Of course, you'll survive those incidents as well, but a larger number of your friends and or acquaintances will not.
Sounds good.
Excellent.
Ha! I found a gun, you sick bastard! Take that! Why isn't it working? Oh, shit.
Did you see your face? Oh,
Yeah,
every
she's
time.
never
Every
very
time. Well, back to work. I'll be seeing you around. Sorry, your name?
Marcia.
Yes, Marcia. I'll be seeing you around, Marcia. Oh, and you should know that I am susceptible to fire.
Good to know.
All right, I'm going to go take care of this one here.
Don't forget your mask.
Oh, Marcia, thank you so much. You're a gem.
No, please. Please.
I can't believe you had sex with Tim.
Cheers.
Oh, Bradley. Sorry, dude.
That was Slasher's Delight. It was performed by Audrey Robertson as Marcia, Beth Rayca-Haas as Becky, and myself as the Slasher.
So now we have Chris Soucy with us today.
Yeah, he stuck around.
Yes, he stayed with us to talk to us. So tell us, how did your theater journey begin? What brought you into the fold?
So I think I'd always been theater centric. I grew up in the military. My father was in the Army. I was an Army brat. And what a lot of people don't know about being an Army brat, because they assume that it's like the Great Santini. you're under some kind of weird martial law. That isn't the case. The Department of Defense children's programs, we call them DYA, Daily Youth Activities. They really try to get you out into the art of any community you're in. So like if you're living in Germany, they're taking you to these castles, they're taking you all around. They really want you to have access to the cultural aspects of wherever you're living. And so we were exposed to all kinds of theater, all kinds of, wondrous art, museums and things of that nature. I got to study Commedia dell'arte in Italy, in the Teatro Olympia, the birthplace of Commedia. I got to, and it was like a summer camp.
Wow, that's amazing.
And so there's all these wonderful arts programs. It was always kind of prevalent to me and my sister growing up. But when people ask me, like, how did you get this, really started in theater, and despite performances in children's plays and things, it was in high school. My sister had a crush on the president of the drama club, and in order to properly get eyes on him, I auditioned for The Wiz.
Check this guy out.
And
covert operations.
Exactly.
Let me get in on this. Make sure
I was
this
in
guy.
every single play I could be in from that point.
Nice.
But
Nice.
I can say that it was my sister's taste in gangly theater. That's like
You got to look after your sister.
Did they get married? Is there
no. My sister
dang.
actually never told him. So if he's listening by any chance, don't embarrass my sister. But yeah.
If he happens to be listening, he now knows that he is the reason.
Right, exactly.
That you have this theater
Inspiration.
life
He
today.
can take credit.
There you go.
Yeah. Awesome.
But as far as playwriting, when did you write your first play?
So, yes, I believe that all art, no matter what it is, whether you're painting, sculpting, anything, is storytelling. And so storytelling is at the base and core of everything that I do. Even in acting, it is that participatory storytelling.
Yeah.
And for all the art that I've created in my life, playwriting, as with many things, was more about this practical progression. The first play I wrote was a Don Quixote adaptation that I wrote in college for a Spanish festival that they were putting on. And when they were doing this, it was like, we need something to present, but we have no budget. We don't have, can we create a show specifically for that event? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I have a long string of, we don't have a budget, but we'd like to produce a show scripts.
Gotcha.
And so working for, small theater companies, I actually worked for the City of Savannah's Cultural Affairs Office. We would get to that point where it's like, okay, we owe the public X number of shows, but our budget only stretched so far. So now it's like, we're going to write a contemporary piece where everybody's in the same costume and there's no set, and we'll tell these stories.
It's quite the motivation.
And I was kind of like a mercenary playwright, a mercenary writer, because I also did this with screenplays, and I was a script doctor and working on scripts. But it was never like, I've got a story to tell. It's, you need this?
Let's whip it out.
So I got very adept at fast writing.
Okay.
I got very adept at no attachment writing.
Okay.
This is a really important skill for playwrights is don't become super attached to your work because it may get ignored and then you feel very slighted, or it may get butchered and you're devastated. And it's like, so I don't have that same relationship with my work. It's kind of like one and doneing a lot of things. So I slipped into playwriting, and it was the pandemic that allowed me to really explore writing stories I wanted to tell more than stories that needed to fill in nooks and crannies.
Gotcha.
So starting in 2020, I started really focusing down on what are the plays that would excite me to produce and excite me to have. And since then, I really haven't looked back.
Awesome. Well, speaking of what you like to write, obviously this one was horror. So
Horror and comedy.
So is that what you kind of steer toward these days?
Kind of. I love cross genre. I love when you take two genres and you meld them well. And horror had always been my go-to. And a lot of that has to do with the idea that creating something that that affects someone. I can't think of anything more effective than horror in the fact that, like, if you write something funny, the first time you hear it, you laugh very loudly, but in subsequent hearings, you may still laugh, but it's not that same impact.
Yeah.
With horror, you can get more afraid. You know, your fear can grow. Like when you think back to a joke, you're not laughing as hard as when you heard it. But when you think back to a scary event, you
can scare
more,
yourself.
Yeah.
Of the thing. So I was always fascinated with that idea because I'm a very phobic person, so I have a lot of fear. And it's like, that's a place I spend a lot of time. And how can you create it and how can you cultivate it and what does it mean to have a scary product? You know, when you give somebody something to think about, it's like, well, you're really challenging them to survive fear, to encounter it without threat. I think that's important. It's like a roller coaster. You know, you've got all these safety things, but this is what it feels like falling from a height.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's kind of what I'm looking for is that, don't worry, nobody's going to jump out and stab you, but you get to see these events play out. And then, hopefully later in life when something scary happens, you'll be able to draw upon your survival instinct. You're like, oh, I've encountered this feeling before and I survived it, then I can survive it.
Now, your play Slasher's Delight, everyone just heard that one.
Yes.
Very funny. I love the setup. Even when I was reading it initially, I just heard this creepy music in my head, this dark, droning, eerie impact. And then all of a sudden it just gets kind of, I'm a tea top. And it was just so funny. And then the girls' reactions and like you said, sort of the origin of this actress becoming this final girl, or this victim becoming this final, or would-be victim becoming a final girl. So tell us where that story came from in your brain. What was your process in writing that one?
I love behind-the-scenes stories, like stories that happen in between the scenes. It's sort of a Rosencrantz and Guildenstern look at the story. And so one of the things that I often think about is like a perfect example is why is Gotham City only plagued by non-super villains, like villains that don't have super strength? It's like why is Metropolis beset by big strong villains? And in my imagination, I like to think that there was a brokerage where they were like, okay, you're too powerful for Gotham. Gotham's only got this one, this one guy dressed like a bat and hand-to-hand combat. We can't have someone with laser eyes show up.
Like minor league, major league.
Right. So is that a future play you're gonna?
I actually have a screenplay.
Oh, nice.
Awesome.
That goes through a person who outclasses the area they're in, and they have to be relocated because they're too powerful for the hero of the area. They're like, I'm sorry, you're a level 3 hero, level 3
sorry, you cannot harass this city.
Yeah.
You must move to this other city.
It reminds me of The Boys.
This city where there's kind of boysish in that notion that there's a corporate level to it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, we can't have someone wreaking havoc in a city that doesn't have a protection.
But we do have an opening in Gotham City.
It's like,
I got you.
are you a psycho clown? No special powers? Yeah,
Perfect.
just a place for you.
Perfect. I love it.
So I do enjoy telling those stories that are kind of like a wink and a nod to anybody who's a fan of the genres. If you're a fan of a slasher movie genre, the final girl, there's nothing that separates her necessarily from all the other characters. It's just sort of a luck of the draw. Sometimes they try to play out the notion of purity or the notion of goodness or these things by cursing the others with, having sex or doing drugs or some
vices.
Some vice that makes them not worthy of being the last person. But I like the idea that there's a process. You have to have some kind of official declaration that you are indeed going to be the final girl in the situation.
I think the juxtaposition of the civility of having contracts versus him then going back and oh yes, I pulled his innards out. It's fine.
Those things.
Had to be done.
Well, it's a great play. I mean, when I read it, I loved it so much that I was like, you know what? I kind of want to voice that. I loved it so much that I wanted to, put myself in it. It was a lot of fun to record, especially with Audrey and Beth. Playing off of them is great. I want to talk about, you recently went to the Valdez Theater Conference with your full-length adaptation The King in Yellow. Now, I've never been to the Valdez Theater Conference, but I follow a lot of playwrights who go there every year, and I just love the camaraderie of all these pictures everyone's posting, some of them meeting for the first time. And so what was that your first time?
That was my first time going, and I was super jazzed because the year prior, many of the playwright networking friends that I have are only virtual. They're, I know them from Facebook or from writing groups and things of like that nature. So I never got to really spend any time with them face to face. And that's just the way of modern technology. But last year, like a good 5 or 6 of them went, and they just had this blast. And watching, seeing the pictures and hearing their genuine, love of the experience. I was like, I'm going to try to go next year. I'll try to get in. I got in, and only one of them made it in this year as well. Which is fine, because I got to meet extraordinary people and amazing playwrights from all around the country, the world, really. And it was fascinating because there's nothing like being around people who are actively creating theater, and especially when it's out of your realm. Like you get very used to like the theater practices of your hometown or your community, and sometimes you just need that little extra inspiration, so to see other people and talk with other people and hear their stories and know what's going on. You're like, oh yes, that's right. I need to read some of this back because I've gotten into the machinery, because there's a machinery to it, to get things produced, to get things done, to put it on stage or to write it. And then when you sit with people who are coming from different inspirations with different mechanisms in place, and it's just wonderful to have that kind of inspiring.
It's cool you say that, how being there, it gives you so much inspiration. Like I said, just seeing the photos, seeing the comments, that gives me inspiration. Yeah, exactly. Even though I'm not there, I'm just like, man, that looks so much fun. I'm going to go write my next big hit so that I can spit. And, but yeah, I just love it. So when they did a full reading of your play,
which was amazing, because it's not a play, again, so The King in Yellow was kind of a intellectual puzzle. Because the book itself is very difficult, dense, and awkward, because it's a bunch of short stories that are very loosely tied together. And there is one thematic thing that's going through the book in a number of stories, and it is that there is a play, and the play is called The King in Yellow, and that anyone who reads the play goes absolutely insane. And so the stories do include this. There are some stories that don't have mention of the King in Yellow, but I basically took all the stories that mention the King in Yellow. I put it into a context where a theater company gets a copy of this play to produce, and then we watch them go insane while learning the history of the play. So it was really, and I did not spend a lot of time thinking of how would you stage this? At one point, I had a woman exploding on stage. And, yeah, exactly. That was one of those things where it's like, as a musing, and the cruelty of a playwright is, it's like, aha, technical director, take that.
Good luck with that one.
Not my problem.
Yeah, exactly, not my problem. Because generally, I try to write very highly producible plays.
Gotcha.
One set wonders where 5 characters max. Nice diversity of characters, because you're thinking, I want any theater company to be able to produce it without stress to them. But after about 6 or 7 of those plays, I will write the 5-act magnum opus, 20 different settings. It's about a spaceship that crashes into a planet, and then the monsters come out. Because again, technical direction. But also sometimes you feel bottled in by the restrictions of the producer mind. Because in the back of my head is the producer going, I can't afford that. Don't put them all in costumes.
Don't make them explode.
What's wrong with you? Don't make them. Well, and I even changed the explosion to be kind of a disembowelment. But because you're like you're inflating a person on stage until they explode. Well, I think not only could it be done, it would be spectacular to see. But there's also just the practicality of it.
Yeah. We did the musical Evil Dead here.
Oh, love Evil Dead.
And there was blood fountains and heads coming off and hands running around. And it was hard, but it was fantastic.
Oh, it's so much fun to try to pull off all of those wonderful stagecraft.
Yeah. Turned out really cool.
Now the you got some feedback for your reading of The King in Yellow. How was it valuable to you? Are you going back to kind of like resculpt things? Or?
Yes. Well, so several things happened. The feedback was wonderful. Everybody was very effusive about it. There was not that much critical. Like in a lot of the readings, I heard a lot of critical critiques. For lack of a better word, critiques.
There you go.
That were constructive critical critiques. Mine, because of the type of impact it is, because there was a lot of humor, there was a lot of gore. It is another horror comedy kind of mashup. I liken it to a horror, a Hammer horror movie because it's got that like tongue-in-cheek campiness to it. But if everyone takes it seriously, when it's scary, and when it's funny, and you don't have to worry about one delivery.
Right. Don't overdo the campiness.
Exactly.
Let it come naturally.
It comes naturally because the subject matter is campy. It's Lovecraftian horror. Which doesn't quite mesh up to sense or logic. So there is that notion. But what was fascinating was it impressed one of the participants enough to want to like deep dive it. And so now we're working on a revision of it with a lot more like back and forth kind of conversation about how to make it more impactful. And there's talk about trying to premiere it at a theater in Anchorage right now.
Cool.
At the very least, developmentally moving in that way, which is again one of those things that I don't think about. I'm really bad at marketing, networking, trying to get plays done. Generally, when it's like, oh, it's time to market this play, I instead write another play. I'm like, no, thank you. I'll just start this play over here.
I feel like it's a completely different skill
to
write a play to market a play.
I am so bad at it.
I understand.
It's very difficult because you take into consideration how many times you've been asked to read a play and how many times you followed through on getting a play produced in that manner, and the pressure that you felt as the person like with somebody's work in your hands. So I don't want to put that pressure on anyone else. I don't want to be a part of that. So you find yourself doing those blind submissions. You do these things that are open calls because you feel very infringy when you're passing along. However, to any playwrights out there, don't feel that way. It is the business. It is how it works. Make connections, make friends, network, find theaters that you respect and admire and work with them. I don't do any of that, but
do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly. But I understand the process. I understand that theater is one of those arts. Theater and film together are one of those arts that is not a solo thing. It is not solitary. It's very difficult to do anything alone in theater. Even if you're a one-man show, you still need producer, place. If you're doing all that on your own, that's a lot to put on your shoulders, and it's not the same experience because theater is about interaction.
Oh yeah,
not just with your cast members, but with the audience. With the community that you're producing.
Now, related to your love of horror, you have your own podcast, and
that is correct.
You do haunted cities or haunted houses in the world, or what is it?
So I have a podcast called The Most Haunted City on Earth.
There you go.
And it is, and that name is drawn from kind of the hyperbolic name that Savannah has of being a woefully haunted city. And I have been a ghost enthusiast. I use the word enthusiast rather than hunter or investigator or anything like that. Because ghost enthusiast, again, my bent in life is storytelling and stories. And ghost stories, when they're told person to person, I find so endlessly fascinating, far more than actually being in a building that's creaky and scary and all that stuff. But I do go to the creaky, scary building, so you can't not.
Yeah, of course.
But I've been doing it since I was 6 years old. So I've been chasing ghosts. I've been ghost hunting on 5 continents.
Wow.
I've definitely had my experience of strange and peculiar in my life. And so it is a passion of mine, but I do not really want it to be my career bent necessarily. It was always just, well, this is something that really I'm passionate about. But to learn that so many people are passionate about it. So many people have like this desire to hear more about it or learn more about it or express their own, stories, giving them an outlet for it. I'm very happy to be a part of it.
Very cool. And how long have you been doing the podcast?
So we started the podcast about a year into the pandemic, so like 3 years in, but we have hundreds of episodes. we do produce a lot. As a matter of fact, just recently we're like, I think we're outpacing people's ability to listen to it. So we need to like restructure so that we're not like just dropping 3 a week or so many that the individual episodes get lost. But that's kind of how easy it is for us to get into it. Because basically what it is me and my friend Madison, we just, whenever we're in the same room, we invariably talk ghosts. And Madison's husband was like, we should do something with that. It's like, there's got to be something
as
new.
One does.
And like his original thought process, we were going to do like a TV series based on our interactions and relations with local ghost stories. But podcast is much more easy to produce and achieve. And it's been wonderful. We've gotten such wonderful supporters and fans, and we just came from a paranormal conference where we met with demonologists and faith healers and all these people who have these paranormal connections that really run deep. And so it's fascinating to talk to them. They have such interesting information.
Very cool. And you do have sort of a filmmaking background as well?
Yes. So I'm a filmmaker.
Yeah. You do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm a puppeteer. I was a puppeteer for 30 years. And a special effects makeup artist for about 10 years. And so, again, a lot of people are like, wow, you do so much. And it's like, it's not that I do so much. It's I don't look for things. I tend to just do them as they fall in my path. And so, when something comes along right in front of me, I'm like, oh, yeah, I like that. I'll do that. Because a lot of people are like, wow, how did you pursue this? I was like, I didn't. And I'm not a huge success at it. It's not like, I have all this wonder. It's
taking the opportunity when it arises.
Exactly. It was not a question of ambition. It was a question of availability. If there's something that I can do and I'm really interested in, then pursue it. And I suggest that to anyone. If there's something you really like, there's probably somebody local who is doing that thing. Puppeteering being a great example. 1993, I was at a cast party for a show, and I mentioned casually to someone, oh, I love puppets. And they're like, oh, you should talk to Angela Beasley. Go talk to Angela Beasley. She's the puppet lady. And I was like, okay. They gave me her phone number. I called her, I think, like within a day. And that next weekend, I was in the Riceboro Rice Parade in a big, gigantic pink monster, running around a van, selling candy to kids. And it was phenomenal, and it's a wonderful thing. So I think that people assume that there's nothing near them, like film too. Again, there's this idea that if you're not in Hollywood or if you're not in a major hub, no, every city has filmmakers. Every place has a region definitely has film, and you can reach out to local filmmakers and start getting work done. And as long as you're not looking for like fame and fortune in it, you could be doing that. You could be making films. We all carry like movie grade cameras in our pockets. It's true. And you can, if there isn't a film company near you, pull your phone out and start making movies.
Yeah.
And there's
Be the one to start it.
There's always people to learn from.
Always people to learn from. Absolutely.
Just here in Augusta, we have, there's a big filmmaking community here in Augusta. There's always something going on. We even have some, big budget features come in every now and then. Absolutely. So
yeah, and that's the wonder of it is people do get into their heads that you have to be somewhere special to do theater, to do art, to do these things. And it's that's such a limiting point of view. And it doesn't do a lot of service to the people who live in towns that aren't, right there in the flow of creative endeavors, because they need art too, because they need representation, and they need somebody to tell stories to them and for them.
All right, so you're active on the New Play Exchange.
I am.
Are there any plays that you've recently read that maybe you could shout out to some of our playwright comrades out there? Or
So Scott Sickles is really was like sort of this doorway playwright for me, because he was one of the first playwrights that I read one of his works, and I was like, God, this is so good. And I kind of like sought him out online to just discuss how much I really liked his work.
Cool.
And not only was he very warm and open and communicative, he actually brought me into playwriting groups where I met other amazing playwrights. Jackie Floyd Perskin.
Perscorn.
Yeah. I was like, I'm now realizing I don't think I've ever said that out loud.
She's probably gonna listen to this and be like,
But Philip Middleton, Adam Richter, Steve Martin. Not that Steve Martin.
We've had that other Steve Martin mentioned before, actually.
Yes.
So.
These are all amazingly warm playwrights who give so much of their time to encouragement and wonder. And so, like, their individual plays, remarkable, incredible. If you are on NPX, seek out playwrights, because oftentimes what I'll do is I will go onto NPX, and on the homepage there is recently suggested or recently reviewed plays.
Yeah.
And I'll read the reviews, and then I'll go and I'll read these plays, because I'm so happy that there is a resource for us to see living playwrights writing contemporary plays, because we had gotten into this habit of being about 50 years behind on plays. Like the plays that they're really teaching you and really putting in front of you are at least 50 years old. And if there are modern plays, they're just the very tippity top, the ones that broke through the pop culture threshold and now we know about them. There are so many plays out there being written by so many brilliant people that are not getting international acclaim, but they're stirring people in wonderful ways. So I try to seek out, and so it's funny because I'm like, I feel like I try to read 1 to 3 plays a week. And then, luckily there's a lot of like really short plays. So you can digest those, just during the day. So I do push NPX a lot because it does give you an idea of what the voice of right now is. And that's another thing, is reading a play and seeing it produced are such different animals, because in reading the play, you're utilizing your perspective and your point of view, and you get to imply all these things. But a play is a bunch of people together, putting their
collaboration.
Exactly, that collaboration, and they bring their heart into it and their experience, and it changes each character's perspective, which also changes the whole. And it's all being wrangled inside of the script, and that's a wonderful thing. So if you do get a chance to read these plays on NPX, if you ever see that you're within distance to see it performed, do yourself a favor and see something that was only in your head, brought to life.
Because every production, every collaboration, every interpretation, it's always different. You pretty much get a new show every time you see.
I found it interesting
one of these plays
because I met the artistic director or the managing director of NPNN, which is the organization that created NPX.
Right.
And one of the programs that they do is called rolling premieres. And a rolling premiere is basically having a world premiere for a play, but it happens in multiple theaters, and they are theaters with diverse economic abilities, diverse demographics. And it allows people to see a play produced at a high level in a 200-seat auditorium, and then in a black box. And to see how these interpretations and how these plays can be fitted for all these different venues. And I'm like, that's so brilliant.
How interesting.
Because that too becomes an interesting thing, because a lot of times in theater we have this one impression, and if we had seen it on stage in Broadway, that's the template. We understand that as even like stage directions in published plays are oftentimes from the first production. You'll get a lot of the stage manager's notes as stage directions in those books, because it became the
go-to.
The vision of the show. But if you get a chance to see it in multiple places, if you're not watching that original conception, you get interesting results.
I like it. That's a really cool idea. I hadn't heard about that yet.
Yeah,
The rolling premieres, I think that's fantastic. I think it's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, cool. All right. So what do you have coming up that you can plug, whether it be theater, whether it be improv stuff, puppeteering? What are you doing that people can come check you out?
So I actually am an artist in residence at the Vet Rep Theater, the Veterans Repertory Theater in Cornwall, New York. And I do have a production going up with them in the fall, which right now is entitled The Absurdity of It All. But that is kind of a working title where we're in full development, and it's going to be a developmental process to get that up and running. They actually, and I don't know if there's a term in theater for it, but in movies we call it option. they actually option 3 of my scripts, and for these kind of developmental opportunities where they would, orchestrate readings and productions based on the developmental phases of creating, a more solid script. And this is the first of the 3.
Very cool.
So that should be in September of this year.
So in September, they're going to be doing the development, or is there going to be like the reading, or what's happening?
It's difficult to say. It is going to be a staged presentation, but I don't know that it's going to be a full production. So it's like a reading, but I think they're going to be fully staged, kind of representation. But what basically is going to happen is I'm going to show up about a week earlier. I'm going to work with the cast. I'm going to work with everybody, and we're going to kind of tighten the show into what we present. And then from there, I will probably take it into revisions.
Gotcha.
To kind of like say, having seen it on speed, heard it, coming out of mouths, what was the impression, take the feedback from audience and things like that. So I'm very excited by it because it's a process that I've never gone through before. Again, I'm a mercenary writer. It's like, here it is, run with it,
And is that something that you submitted for, or did they reach out to you?
So, intriguiguingly, I won a contest with them, a playwriting contest, and I believe I didn't win. I was second place, but they really did like the play, and they really wanted to develop that play. Turns out that play is not the play that we're putting out.
Okay.
Because what happened was they liked the play enough, and we got into enough conversation to where they wanted to put me in that position. When they offered that, they were like, do you have other plays? And that's the worst question to ask me. Like, do you have other plays? It's like, I have about 300.
I've seen your catalog. You have a ton of plays.
I have a lot of plays. So I sent the ones that I felt were appropriate for the size of their company and what they're trying to achieve and things like that. And they liked them enough to option those as well. And then this one that we're working on, I think, struck a chord with the director. And that's, The King in Yellow was the same thing because it is thematically, it struck a chord with the director of the Valdez Conference. Really liked the subject matter so much. It was something that was close to him and his interest. So, and that's a wonderful thing to learn too, is that there are people out there that when you write something that you think is really esoteric, it's their jam. I love that. That's what I want. So if you're thinking that you're alone in the world, you're not. The things that you really like, there are whole swaths of people who really like it too. And if you can find that community, you're blessed. Yeah.
Stuff that you write can speak to someone else in a way that you would have never thought.
Exactly. And that's even more so the ideas. It's like, that wasn't my intent. I wasn't going for that necessarily.
Yeah.
But that other people can see that in your work is a real reward.
Absolutely.
So where can people find you? Do you have your website? Are you active on social media?
So I've got my website is SoucyWrites.com. That's SoucyWrites.com. Soucy Writer on Instagram. I think I'm Soucy Writer on TikTok. In any case, yes, I'm out there. And our podcast is the Most Haunted City on Earth podcast. We have a lot of episodes.
Sounds like it, yeah.
How often do you release on that?
So until recently, it was 3 times a week. And we have a Patreon. And so a lot of that content is specifically for our Patreon. And we do live investigations. We went to Waverly Hills. We went to the Conjuring House. And we kind of have a partnership with the Ghost Brothers. So the Ghost Brothers oftentimes come with us on ghost hunts, and we just basically have a really good time. And one of the main things that we do is we share people's ghost stories. So we get a lot of like mail where people share their ghost stories, and we talk about it, and we kind of break down what we understand about their ghost stories and how they fit into a wider understanding of, what the paranormal is. And so, yeah, if you enjoy the paranormal,
check it out.
check it out.
Awesome. Well, Chris Soucy, thank you so much for dropping in with us here in Augusta. You're probably going to be heading home from here, but yeah, I'm glad you dropped in. Keep creating. Keep writing all the cool stuff you write.
Let us know what else you have going on in Savannah. It's not too far from here.
Yeah, let us know. And we really enjoyed producing Slasher's Delight. It was such a fun play to work with, and I hope to get to collaborate with you again in the future.
Excellent.
Many thanks again to the playwright that joined us on this episode, Christopher Soucy, and also thanks to all of you for listening. Now, if you'd like to continue to help us grow and you want more video content, please subscribe to the Gather by the Ghostlight channel on YouTube. And if you'd like to have some cool Gather by the Ghostlight merchandise, t-shirts are available at the merchandise link in the show notes. And you can also find the Gather by the Ghostlight annual companion books available at Amazon. Intro and outro music, as always, is provided by artist JK47, and the cover art for this episode was created by Anna Lascaux. And if you enjoy this podcast, maybe you're a longtime listener, or maybe this is the first episode you've ever heard, let us know. Please leave us a rating or a review in all the places that you can. That kind of activity, it really does help us get discovered by more listeners like you. And also be sure to follow Gather by the Ghostlight on social media to stay up to date on new episodes. I'm Jonathan Cook, and as always, stay safe, and I'll see you next time we Gather by the Ghostlight.